say Honolulu?
No, he did not say Honolulu.
Where did you say that?
He said places. If you were listening to the live stream, you'd hear right now.
Really?
Yeah, Mike right here.
Why is that? It's really warm right here. What is... It's come from this area. Is it? Yes. I don't work for this night.
Welcome to Sector67. If you haven't been here before, it's our monthly meeting. We basically we can go around and you can say who you are, what you're interested in, or why you're here otherwise, and go from there. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Bob. We'll see if also step, please.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob, long-time member, first-time presenter in a while. But I work at a company called Health. It's more related to the assembly line, and I've been working on it for over a year and finally have progress and got approval from my company to share it, and so I'm really excited to talk about what I've been working on. So Propeller Health, we make sensors for inhalers so that people with asthma or COPD can track when they're using their medications better and what their triggers are, and the doctors can see if patients are using their medications and maybe change the medications that they're using based on whether they're using them well or not. The insurance companies benefit because it means reduced visits to the emergency rooms, and the pharmacy companies benefit because we help them with studies to determine if drugs are effective. The project that I've been working on lately, calling it Neptune, and so all of our products, all of our inhaler add-ons are named after fish internally. And so Neptune is the god of the sea who controls all of the aquatic creatures, so we figured Neptune was an appropriate name. But we have a product line of around a dozen devices because there are so many different types of inhalers and we need a different form factor for each one of them. So volumes. So all of our we have all of our devices manufactured at a contract manufacturer in Illinois, and they take a panel of PCBs and populate them with components, and we end up with both sides of the PCB. So this is what the panel looks like. It's got a whole bunch of various components. In this particular case, there is a limit switch that detects when a user does a specific action to prepare the med. There's a microphone which listens for a specific sound that happens when the user is inhaling their med. And then there's a whole bunch of passive components for amplifier for the. All of this is packed into, and this thing is, well, there's a CR2032 battery. It's a coin cell battery on the other side, so you get a sense of scale. These things are tiny. So our panels typically have between 8 and 12 devices on a panel, and these are coming straight off of the surface mount assembly, and they need to be programmed and tested. In the past, $100,000 test machine, test platform, and it's ridiculously expensive when you consider that we have about a dozen products. So that's 30,000 times a dozen. and it doesn't scale well. So and the other problem is that this thing is pretty slow. So it does something called ICT, or inserted test, which is where you take a whole bunch of pogo pins, and you can see on here there's a bunch of gold contacts. So what happens is these pogo pins press onto things and do a couple other things. That takes a long time. So we're ending up with a cycle time of 6 minutes for 6 devices, which was a really long time when we're trying to make 5,000 a month or more. So the first thing that I explored was something called self-test, and having a single block that has all of the processing with a small fixture that only has a few pogo pins. That concept worked out really well. But it wasn't fast enough. Each device, whether it passed or failed. Where then we tell it to program the MAC address, and if that communications, and device so that we can do that secure communication with the shared hash. And then we create a log. And at any point, if it fails, then we get a red light. And if it passes through the whole thing, then we get a green light, and the operator only has to look at whether it's green or red. And so this is and then we have individual device logs. So every time the cycle runs on a device, which pi it was, then of this working box. And then here is the fixture, which has a panel of units of devices. So every cycle, the operator's point, it's in progress, goes through each of those steps. In the screen, but eventually all of the lights will on here self-test. This one. So in production, they would then this thing together. It's got of the pi up to WS2812 LEDs. And that's the fixture. There are a few ribbon each of the pogo pins. But we don't do this industrial fixtures for assembly line for the ribbon cable configuration, and then the DXF of where all the pogo pins go. And it's pretty simple. So that's what it looks like with our box. So because these things are Pis that don't really have an interface, and we wanted the box itself to be agnostic to which assembly line it was on, it made a lot of sense to configure the thumb drive and put the hex file and a config file and all the logs and the script onto the thumb drive itself. And then you would just have to copy the configuration onto that thumb drive and do that 12 times. And then the Pis, when they boot, all they do is loop, waiting for a thumb drive to be inserted, and then when one is, the box itself has no idea what device it's programming. It doesn't need to. It's all stored on the thumb drive. And then when we're done, we can just unplug the thumb drive, which has all the logs on it, and copy the logs off. So it ended up being really convenient to just use the thumb drives. Since we've actually started uploading the logs over FTP, so that in real time, so that we can watch as they're doing the production. And we've actually caught them lying before when they said that they were manufacturing devices and putting them through this fixture when we could see that they weren't. And so that was interesting.
Did you call them on it?
No. Our relationship with them is really important, and we don't want to make them hate us any more than they already FTP upload, because it's important to us for other. So we end up saving a whole bunch of money. We've since moved away from these $1,400 scanners to. So yeah, we're pretty. All those wires. And it takes me a lot less time to assemble them. And it looks way better. And that's it in an enclosure. So the previous enclosure was laser cut here and then glued together. This one is a stock poly case enclosure that I only had to make a few holes in. So total time for this thing is a few hours. And total cost, with including all the pies, is around $500. Yeah, so before we were doing a panel of 6 in 6 minutes, so 12 minutes for 12 devices, and now we're doing a panel of 12 in 1 minute, and then 6, it's complicated. The result is that we've saved a bunch of time off of the assembly process, and we have cheaper fixtures and much better transparency with our assembly line and our contract manufacturer. So, questions? Yes.
For your pogo pin jig, you're tapping everything else happens in the eyes?
Yes. Also, the thing that holds it, it has to hold all of the WS-2012 LEDs and the button, and have. So you can't just have the hinges go like this. You have to have things to the pogo pins. So because the mechanicals are so complicated and need to be rugged, because the operators, we can't really trust them to be careful with delicate stuff, they're the experts at making these kinds of fixtures. Because we only have to make one of them. So going through the effort of designing a PCB when we already have to do the routing, and you can just drill extra holes during that routing process, it seems like it might be better just to do the one-off with the wire wrapping. But I see your point. Other questions?
All this testing is going down at the fab place in Illinois, right?
Yeah.
How many of those devices do you have down there?
So we one in the test and development area, and then one backup.
And what's the volume coming off the line then? How fast do
I can't tell you that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
All right.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Bob, you're only engaged in mine, not just the one screen. Sure. Thanks.
All right. I haven't got
have anything that's new in a big way, but this is a bicycle transmission that we worked on with last year. This is a new prototype, a lot lighter, simpler, and smaller than what we've had before. For those just in, this is a transmission to replace derailleurs on a bicycle. It mounts inside the frame of the bike. Instead of having all the shifting on the crank on the wheel, it mounts to the frame where it's rigid, where it's easy to swap it in and out. It's located, the weight of this, which is about 4 pounds, and this one is located low on the bike, so it doesn't, low and in the center of the bike, so it doesn't adversely affect the handling. And you've got just a single crank chainring and a single cog on the rear wheel. All the shifting is done here by this mechanism, which moves the chain in parallel lines. One cog gets bigger, one gets smaller. Chain line stays the same, the ratios change. Shifting is done with one, and so you go through your entire gear range with just one control. Much easier to use. The next step on this is going to be setting it up with a test fixture, putting a drill motor on it to drive it, and connecting up to the shifting cable so it shifts to make sure it works. And after that, we'll be moving on the bike, hopefully about this weekend. A little more pedestrian pursuit. Last month I mentioned that I'm going to build some furniture out of white pine that we had cut down on our property here next to Holbrook Park. It's beautiful wood. They milled it to 1.1 inch thick, and so even after planing it, it's still a full inch thickness. So I thought a good practice project would be make these 5-board stools for my granddaughters, Lily, and but I did learn white pine is really soft. So there's I've made these out of white pine before, not as nice, and I made a bunch of. This was the first one that I did. These are all glued. The screws really just hold the wood together until the glue dries. I want to. This piece of wood have the edge of it, so, but I ended up looking, and I kept, which they love. I hope they like the stools as much. And then last thing to do besides. Any questions on those? Yes.
What'd you use to decarve the letters on the side?
The Stinger router. Chris did all
No regrets.
and he did the rest. But it went real quick.
Where did the original idea for the derailleur replacement come from?
About 1988, I was living on the Oregon coast. I just moved there from California, and I was a little depressed at how much less riding weather I had on the Oregon coast. And so I wanted to make a bike that made the rider and this was for a recumbent. And originally I just had a front set of gears with its own derailleur and a rear set of gears with its own derailleur. And over time, I realized it makes sense to put those together, just have one mechanism to shift both sets of gears. This gives you as much gear range as a typical 27 speed with only 9 shift. And it's about the same weight and expected to be about the same price as what it replaces this conventional grinder setup. But it's still in development. The really nice thing about this design is it uses off-the-shelf parts for everything that's low bearing. The shafts, the bearings, the gears, the chain, somebody else warranties that. The thing that's unique to it is the shifting mechanism. Any more questions? Thank you. By the way, this transmission, we have an earlier prototype on a bike that's riding.
the air muscle and pressure regulator stuff that I've been working on. The air muscle is 2 plastic caps on either end, and then stainless steel cable grating with hose clamps over a section of bike tire. So this is, I think, about the cheapest way you can make an air muscle, and it's pretty easy to make different lengths of this because all the end parts are the same. So you just get whatever length of tube you need, cut it to size, and then use that. And then the pressure regulator, the way this works is there's a spool that slides around on the inside and a hobby servo connected to a spring that controls the position of the spool. So on one side there's the intake air, and then there's the air pressure inside the actuator, and then the spring balanced on the other side. So here's the spool. So there's a gap in the middle, and then the 2 full diameter part on the outside. And then here's the air intake part, and then the exhaust there, and then the output to the actuator in the middle there. So neither of the ports are connected, and then the spring pushes this side in, shifting the spool over that way, allowing air to flow from the intake into the actuator. And then once inside the actuator reaches a high enough pressure to push the spring back, the air will, so this port connects the actuator to the other side of the spool. So the spool is always being balanced between the air pressure inside the actuator and the force of the spring on the other side. So what that results in is, as the servo moves, the actuator moves to a pressure proportional to what the spring is. So I've got one of the cheapest hobby servos, very low power, connected to a pneumatic amplifier that controls a much larger air actuator. So what I'm planning on using this for is an exoskeleton that has a whole bunch of these to move the appendages around. So this is just a relatively inexpensive way to get a lot of actuators that have position control and decent force, but also not problematic using it with people because you can overpower them. And because of the way that the belt is set up, if the servo is set at a specific position, if the pressure increases on the actuator, the valve will let the air out. So when it's holding position, you can just grab the actuator and move it, and it'll force air out of the valve and allow you to mess with it. So this is probably on later versions will have. So the entire setup is basically just an amplifier for the position of the little hobby servo in there. Any questions?
How long does it travel on the muscle?
On this muscle, the travel is about 1.5 inches. It's kind of a function of how long you have it built. So if you have a longer muscle, you can get more travel out of it.
Is that pressure regulator your design and
Yes.
you fabricated it?
Yeah. It's kind of similar to like typical pressure regulators. I don't think this is completely new. It's just an adaptation of several different pressure regulator designs to make it small enough that I can use a hobby servo to do the input of it. And the way it works is pretty similar to an air pressure regulator on most pneumatic systems, where you just have like a threaded or dial thing that you turn metal that's connected to a rather large spring. So this just has like a 1/4 inch spool in there, so that this force adjusting the spring can be changed by a servo relatively quickly.
You also do.
Right
How much could
now,
it lift or how much could it push?
I think it can lift about 5 pounds currently. I haven't really done very precise measurements with it, so I've just been trying to figure out whether the pressure regulator has high enough resolution to make it usable. So I'm expecting it'll be about the same strength as human muscles, because that's what other papers that I've read about this have stated.
Is there any linearity or stiction or friction from the switch? Does it move reasonably?
It really depends on like how well the belt's made. Because the first version that I had with this, it would stick a lot, and if this would kind of move around, but it wouldn't really move through the full range of motion. Currently it leaks a lot, and that kind of helps prevent from sticking too much. So to get smooth control out of this, you have to have the board that this spool is sliding in to be pretty smooth, and also like where the so where those holes are and where this hole is in comparison to the size of the cutout in the spool, that kind of affects like the compactness. So if I could make it leak less by shrinking down the size of the gap on the spool there, but then the spool has to shift over a little bit back and forth to adjust for going from putting air in to taking air out. Right now I've been going for like just getting it to move rather than efficiency of the valve.
Other questions?
Yeah, so this is going to be used on an exoskeleton. Are you going to have, well, I guess, what's your air source? Are you going to have a tank with you, or?
So currently it's just going to be tethered because it's not really very feasible to put the compressor that will have enough capacity to run this. So I've got, I'm working on some hydraulic valves, but those are taking a while and pretty hard to make. And my plan was have the air muscles be used as a force feedback system for the hydraulic muscles. So there'll be some sort of hydraulic apparatus, and then based on sensors on the joints of that'll control the air muscles to force feedback on the rest of it.
How long have you been working on this?
About 2 years. So I kind of started with the hydraulic stuff 3 years ago, and then finally got some inexpensive cylinders and a valve that I made and tested. So yeah, it's been about 3 years working on this on and off.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right, Sam. Is there anybody else to present for Sam? I think he's the last one.
Is the first robotics team going to?
They are not here.
No.
They're slacking.
All right.
We'll see.
Plenty of other sectors of the economy. I'm originally from Janesville, and I'm likely moving back there soon to have kids near my parents, so that we have grandparents around to help us. And kind of means I'm not going to have sector anymore. So why not try to build one down there? I am pretty passionate about STEM in general, and now STEAM. I've always liked art as well. So hoping to get some corporate interest in a nonprofit very similar to sector down there. Probably smaller scale, 501(c) for donations and corporate sponsorships, targeting younger demographics. The school that I went to, Janesville Parker, I guess they does poor job. So I would love to make an impact there. As far as options for even just a co-working facility, Janesville doesn't have any sort of shared office space. The closest one is in Beloit, which has seating for about 50 and has 8 office spaces, but no shops, no metal fabrication, no wood shop, no 3D printers, not much of much. So I know the area will be a lot smaller, and because I'd like to be as close to grandparents as possible, I suppose, is likely going to be in Janesville, and that gives us total population of about 180,000 to pull from. All of them a little closer to Janesville than they would be to Sector. There is a possibility of going down to Beloit, though. If anyone knows the company ABC Supply, it's one of the largest owned private companies in the U.S. and it's ran by a billionaire, one single woman at the top, who is really trying to make Beloit a much better place. So I think she may be interested in community building, culture building place like Sector. Plans would be to start small, but again, honestly, it just depends on how much corporate sponsorship can come in. The tier 1 would be a lot of hand tools, and then whatever sort of machinery and I guess just different types of machinery that we can get in to the space. And I think auto bays might be a pretty popular option there. Because there's not a ton of culture, everybody does still have a car and doesn't necessarily have a good space to work on. Right now, I live in an apartment, we don't have that space. Although they're all nonprofits, there is some competition. So Sector, love it, but it's not close enough for me. Hoping it's not close enough for lots of other people. There's also one in Rockford. I think the population is about 150,000. So I have not been there, but it seems a lot like Sector, except for it's member managed with a few area captains, they call it. It doesn't seem like there's anybody like Chris at that place. So that's very interesting as well. They have 3 floors, and I'm intrigued to check it out sometime. Not a direct competition, there's a place called Generator in Burlington, Vermont. GeneratorVT.com, I'd suggest checking them out. I think it's a really cool place. It's a lot like Sector, but they have 8 employees, 3 full-time and 5 part-time. When I was meeting with the executive director, I was up there for 4 days for personal reasons, but spent a day working at the office, emailed and said, hey, I'm of a place very similar to this, let me come check it out. He told us, yeah, we're really an anomaly. We have such a small population. It's very odd that we can make a place work like this. A lot of it is corporate sponsorship, though. They have a $800,000 budget, and about half comes from local colleges and corporations. So I don't know how that compares to Sector, but the fact that they have 8 staff, I thought was a very interesting concept instead of like the Rockford Makerspace, which has no real staff. Just a board and volunteers. So lots of ways to possibly get this started. Indirect competition, there is one place that calls itself a makerspace in Janesville, but it is very much geared towards board games, like Dungeons, Dragons, things like that. They have a lot of craft space, but not a lot of tools, things to allow people to make things other than board game pieces, or they have a laser. They do a lot of decorative artwork pieces, but the one saw that they have is a tabletop mounted piece for specifically cutting out metals and tile for board games. And then Iron Tech, like I said, is the only co-working facility in the Janesville Beloit area right now, which is a great place, but it's just internet and coffee and a fridge. So Yelp top 10 shared office space near Janesville. There isn't one, and it doesn't know about Beloit yet, which is, I don't know if that's good or bad for my initial research here. But anyways, lots of companies. Like I mentioned, ABC Supply is a top candidate because the owner is so filthy rich. Plan from here, when I enter in the government plan competition, I think places like this should be anywhere they can be, because I think they really offer a lot to the community. So, C Corp sponsorship, just try to find a location based on that. Lots of thoughts and prayers. All right, so a little more fun than this. This is a vertical crossbow mechanism that I designed a months ago, tried to sell to two companies that are in both the typical traditional archery business and in the crossbow business. There is a big difference between those two for law and regulations, but neither of them are interested. So this kind of kaput. I have a not a utility patent, just a provisional patent on the mechanism. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere because there's only two companies that have anything, but the idea is to allow the vertical bow and the traditional bow user to have an ability to shoot their bow that they're comfortable with, that they like, until they stop hunting. The mechanism there is the part that I've got the provisional patent on, but again, it doesn't seem like anybody's interested to buy. You can mount a scope, and I thought somebody would bite. Nobody did.
It seemed to pick up at least.
I think it's a market that could be filled, and I'd be happy to run it. Sounds like a lot of fun. So, yeah, I don't know if I really gave you guys a lot of room for questions. My wife told me to be careful because I'm presenting the competition to the competition.
Have you visited a lot of other spaces, like around the state? I mean, I hear that Chris has maybe have you done that kind of tour and visiting the ones?
So I have not been to Milwaukee one. I've been to one this to offer value to the community.
But Duluth is
kind of
what I stopped the one in Duluth. Not sure about Duluth.
Yeah, if video and talk to people. Thanks. Thanks, Mason.
Mr. Bob, can I go first? Who are you? What do you do? Why are you here?
I'm Bob. I'm an electrical engineer. I've been working with hardware startups since 2011, I think. I've been a member here for that long too.
I'm Matt. I'm a tinkerer, I guess, mostly.
I'm Mark. I'm a member here, and
Yeah. We're just trying to figure out fusion animations and basically just trying to do.
I'm structural, a lot of mechanical, and I was interested in. I'm Joe. I've been here a member a few years. I've been tinkering with old motorcycles.
Tonight, I'm having Burke O'Neill from Solar. You could show up.
What time is that?
My name's Tom. I'm a independent consultant. I'm mostly a software developer. With the CO2 laser, fiber laser, Shapeco CNC. I did about Tormac 1100 with a friend. And I just enjoyed building stuff. I did so much programming. I had sector building, the old one, and I just had, I should stop by.
I'm Scott, I'm over here. So, I'm gonna say next week you can expect a presentation at least on that machine, and we'll probably go before that. That's my commitment.
I do arts and crafts and talk a lot.
I'm Josh, I'm an electrical. I just want to see what's going on right here.
I'm Kyle, I'm the electrical engineer.
Check us out a few times, just do projects at home, and it's nice to like have to go somewhere.
I'm
I'm Sam, industrial engineer by education, woodworker, hobbyist, love it. I think outline out of a piece of wood, so stuff except for electrical engineering.
Been coming here for about a year. I live in the neighborhood. I have a 30-year career in aerospace. You know, unsatisfying and the woodworking I do.
I'm Chris. I'm building kits and antennas and things like that, messing around with microcontrollers. So.
I'm Gordon, software. Looking to pick the brains of some. And so right now I'm just trying to get a Raspberry Pi and Arduino to talk to each other. But I also have an interest in 3D printing.
Charlie, I'm an industrial designer, all windows, fixtures for grocery stores, and get goodies occasionally that are useful.
My name's Jacob. I'm a software developer. Mostly just I moved up to Madison a few years ago and just it's kind of working from home. My main company's based in Chicago and gets staring at a wall for a few hours a day. And so I was just looking at a desk, and other than that, I have some interest in working with hardware. I've always found much older computers more interesting than the modern ones. So I'm currently working on an 8-bit computer, roughly modeled on Sector67 ISA.
My name is John. I'm a member here at Sector, and I run a very small company here designing and building assistive and adaptive devices for the handicapped community.
I'm Drew. I'm John's son. I'm currently working towards getting my pilot's license, but I've always been interested in building things.
I'm Donovan, software engineer. I've been a member of Sector for 8 or so years. My job.
I'm Jansen. I'm a mechanical engineering student at UW Platinum. Working on making hydraulic and pneumatic valves here.
I'm Brian. I'm a mechanical and controls engineer, and I'm fortunate to put up with Chris's review so that you don't have to.
And Brian, what are you working on right now? Welding shop.
Plasma on the table right now.
C-axis. Head on our plasma covered overheat, so throwing aluminum at the problem right now. It seems to be like
More aluminum.
Yeah.
More aluminum after that.
I'm Brandon. I'm just a fan of place, kind of worker. My grandfather was an engineer. My father was an engineer. And I think I might have been whatever happened.
Adam, who are you?
Adam. Woodworker and screen printer.
So yeah, if you haven't been here before, if you want to walk around, if you get up by the screen here, I can show you around here, at least show you what's here.
And doesn't Davey have something coming up in the next?
Oh yeah, he's got treasure at some point. I don't know when it is though. I don't think he emailed it a date. There's a mailing list on the website on the announcements page. There's like a Google group on there. But Davey has been doing meetups to basically take stuff apart and recycle it. And so I think we've recycled about $4,000 worth of stuff so far. So we're doing only like anything but steel. As long as a magnet doesn't stick to it, we'll take it to recyclers. And so I think in his last calculation, actually, it wasn't terrible. We were better off than working at McDonald's, but not a lot better off. So.
And people who come seem to really enjoy it. I've enjoyed it. People who've been kind of showing up. I think it's kind of grown over time, so it's kind of a good one to pass the word on. I think.
People
Yeah.
work with it on
Yeah, it's basically, we have a lot of old stuff, and some of the stuff isn't really usable anymore, but rather than throw it in a pile for breakage, it's not that hard to take apart. And it's inspiring to look at it to see how it was built in the 60s or 70s. Things were built very, very differently than they're built today. And it's intriguing to look at how that stuff was made before you had an injection mold that was this big that did everything for you. And things actually had to be machined and rolled out, manufactured, and assembled by hand, and then be able to be serviced. And it's just not a thing that we have today for a snap together device that you drop in the ground once and all the snaps explode everywhere and then you can never put it back together again. So things were made a little differently. So anywho, you're welcome to stick around or hang out or whatever else. But yeah, if you come up here, I can show you what's here. You can ask Nick how much his stools are going for. I don't know what he's got. But thanks everybody for coming out.
So, taking
the bad news is you laid out your cards and now next time you have to make more stuff.
I understand that. So, and I spent a lot of time. So when I go, because it's well, no, basically it's how all the
very excited to get things on diffraction grading.
Yeah, basically, when you get back, that's been so I
no, that's fine. I say basically, all you do is just look at time
literally I have one thing together with the
this Saturday, and it's out yeah, it's very I gotta deal with that. So I'm looking at I just shut out
so that's where I don't I'm getting this
for the tax
everything I understand. Otherwise, that's like projection of like down into the next space. So, because you've done a bunch with fusions. Just right, yeah. It's just good. Yeah, but then
So,
We're getting a brand new account, like, here's $25 worth of coupons, we'll pay you.
I have this one I don't know what I swore the solid would have to play because I understand the classroom. I've been solid. So that was a point in time when I was in a couple of companies, like they were solid to do a really good job. Carl Bass. I actually found they give it away. So funny time, but last time I did. I had this schedule. So that schedule right then that community that was there. And it's interesting. Like for the I don't know doing comedy. So it's for my own part, it's like, okay, you get this correct, and I went with they hired something cool, it's like a conference, great conference, and at the time, those guys, that was so the other funds and so no matter what you my model is so it's all this, and when you get into the weird thing is basing it as a sentence. Even though it's the basing of this sentence. I don't know. So there's all these fun, so I was concept drawing is on there, and then because I got it the actual what I would say is his sister and so, but he at that point said, and I don't think he was lying, it's not that a deal is like a live television show. That's what they cheap, it's free. And triple budget. So they kept the free version out. It's still do a lot more. They've actually spent a lot of time. That's right now.
Yeah, and actually, less.
Yeah, so they've done
so I actually paid less than
they keep on what it didn't have a change. What about it didn't buy the whole paper, so spent a lot of time on it. And so they kind of have capability to yeah, I mean, and so this last three versions are going to keep but once they actually go to the forum,
you not live there yet?
that's it's like so that's so yeah, so that when I get to it, so they were using spider. I mean, it's spider is pretty powerful. Now they're using they just did that, and now well, but it's not just so they well, but it's probably not yeah. So it's not a debugger, but you can see and I think it's a poster like to show you.
My favorite part.
I'll make my one.
So it's getting close, and I don't know, I know they won't hang the fruit. Jumping in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then have your model
Really more than like.
So.
I can tell depending
Yeah.
on how.
Well, no, yeah, I think for the, and the parts of this, like part of this.
I can have a quarter to
Oh.
Organization thing.
Is it like a barn of cows?
No,
It's so basic. Yeah, but it's like a 1200
Is it a half to
ordinance,
one?
everything resides in
Unit?
the houses.
How do you have a quarter of a unit of livestock?
because
They give a leg.
yeah.
Space.
So like
Yeah, so you want like that. So the easiest thing, I guess the, and I don't know, I may use it more, there's a guy.
What if you're really
I think there's a guy that's.
I do need to get clarification.
Reading one browser.
Do you want to be one
Out of the space of
How often?
This is really good animations.
So
It started with like, they're not, well, yeah, well, they are for linear elements. So, basically, yeah, no. So you look at the outside. So that guy, so he never says he's a creationist, which is but no, but it's like, so basically the theory is it's just a bunch of wheels and a bunch of shit that it's got a bunch of mechanical, like this wheel spinning at a certain it'll do something, and it'll draw. I mean, the theory is that it'll draw.
I mean, the manual law.
So he does to look at software that's basic. That's for me. It was this guy came out of nowhere. Now he's got.
That's like right off.
But he does.
That's like right off of the highway.
But so his explanation is okay.
So like,
I can't believe like I must be thinking maybe I keep my.
but that, I mean, it doesn't look
basically
like you go on the other side of the big wheel.
and then another wheel, and then another wheel, like 4 times. And you don't need to go into 4 dimensions. You have to do that, and then it's
I've noticed, I've had maybe 3 or 4 projects out down there. It's like cool. How I set up, you get good hygiene, you get corner choices, and then at some point you're like, you're finishing.
Then like,
right.
You can rewind it and change that. You know,
Oh, yeah, with that, the way I got it set up. Yeah, and that's for the end.
so I started kind of with hygiene. I don't know, it's copy and paste, now I have to do it. It's like one.
yeah, I can't afford anything.
Make sure you grab the component and not buy. Because the peanut stuff, see, I haven't like, so I avoided that. Literally done a component. And like I was for me it's more like I was talking to Sam at some point. So that sketch of it interesting about it is there's a guy that they track these 2 people. He's at college and he was one of these guys that built the code editor right inside the script. So I felt perfect. I at one point I got is the same thing as you guys said, you know, define your model, like software, world, or whatever, and then it's just the baseline that are testing it over. You see some of that are huge, and it comes with a lot of the other just basic 4 lines of stuff. And once you're there, you kind of watch this. Okay, and that's, yeah. Right, I think that's the part of it that goes down. I know, like, even, and I even started to play around with computers. I have a material that I have. But literally, I think of a lot of really like line, they're like pretty big box, so when I all my drafting like a square, and I don't need a closet. So then especially, so then if you're lazy in code, because the components always have iterate through the you don't run into so you put the line as a component and so I mean I've done a fair bit on like this building, like taking what other people have done. Yeah, when I get through it, once I get to the last point, then I gotta know I gotta do it. So that's not so like I know I'm actually I don't need the electric. I want an electric bike, so I'm going to build like the battery pack. I just slap it on a pedal bike. So I have a project now. Then it's like jump on these different machines. And I'm trying to do it in Fusion now. And it's hilarious because a lot of these things are using Fusion. And I go back to the beginning though, and make it just right up and make Davey and all this stuff. But then in the end, they always like wait.
I stopped using because like I draw walls and stuff, and I make the ceiling, and they don't get unified. Then if I try to move the ceiling,
yeah, no, I do it, but there's, and everyone like Davey's got his whole house. You see, it's pretty cool. I think they're pretty. Yeah, it's like a massive model. And I do say the guy that I'm really going in the radio. That was the thing, the maintenance, how you set up everything at the beginning early with layers and all that stuff, really controls. And I don't know, I know an interior kid, she's aged like my daughter, she's been to the council, I do it every year. It was in California. Not spring. So I was kind of curious, because I kind of want to go back. Because it was just kind of one for me. And I was ready to go work for them. I didn't want to work with them. This is when they were hiring. All Google wanted them. And software and the story. But I mean, it's not that somebody that's what I think, because they had never sold anything. Triple. Trimble, as far as I understand, as far as my understanding, you seem like we have this idea, like, it'll tell you where you are, and he's like, no, it'll buy that. But Trimble, the fact that Trimble is buying up all of these technologies, right? But there's all these different, sub things, right? One of them is like inside, like the restaurant, that restaurant is just placement, where are all of the types, everything, all that stuff. So it's like you're everything inside the building. So I don't know, Trimble bought some things, I haven't found much, but they're still, I think, so we can catch up. They hired some on that conference they had, really good movie guys, and they hired them all up. Pretty neat. So that's actually good. That's a good thing. Just the money to it. It's still the run of it. It's a great place to go. Right. And they were like good boys. I know. Okay. But they're the professionals who've been doing this for like 2 years ago. They're arguably my most equipment. That's the problem. I promise you, 2 decades ago, that was the problem. But is the one I remember that was programmed, and I had, I have a little more moving I said, but Airbnb. Twitter was so the really good part is the way you make things fast and easy. I don't know if it's on that level. That makes sense. Typically, I grab more space. Right. It's still great. It's just that it's not compared to. I don't know if it's objectively worse than right, and this was funny, this guy, the developer, the original guy was an architect, and I was said, you were going to do a program in Python or Ruby, so that was the answer. And I think a lot of it had C++, there's some, a lot of stuff. So it's not like I'm getting away from it, because I can then, but I got it to work with it. And then I think I understand, because it's time wasted in algebra, which I never actually did in college. It's weird. I must have been the last of the that was not like but that was so that, but now it's like all that shit. And there's a guy out at MIT who became a poster child for open learning and really trying to have these long lectures. They're like, and he's got super big following. He's not a creeper. One of the guys at MIT got so I've watched his like long lectures. But basically said linear algebra. So I wanted to understand the most basic thing, and I thought I had it. Yeah, and I think it's my sense is you don't want you to spend all the time in it. It's not accessible. But I think, that's what I presume they will pull back on tonight. Okay, what did they say? Carl Bass was really it's like he left it. So I'm curious to see. Because I was, Chris was at the whole and he could get it. So, I got to the point where I didn't understand it. I kind of, like, No, but the machining, well, and Tormach does it, but Tormach, they kind of, so, you pick one, yeah, sure, that's yeah, because it seems like it's in question still, and the other thing, when they started, they had like an API 5 and see them then go, we're not going to support 5. It's okay. That's probably smart. Right? You can't support 5. And it would seem that Python is the GIS tool. And I have sit and work out these people that are JavaScript is after all, it's still there. So JavaScript continues to be like a thing. Because it's always there.
It's it fixed a lot of that, but I'm not like
You still do it.
Yeah, but I have 25 years experience. I have one JavaScript. There was one point when I was famous widely used book for JavaScript. It was called JavaScript for Windows.
Oh. Well, and I got into it because I got into it, but all this pathway my program was based on, and I can't even because John Messer was one of the first 5 days that came forward. jQuery is the thing that made JavaScript. Yeah, that's basically as far as I can tell. And again, within that thread, as you watch these things, and he found this one until I created JavaScript, and then it's came all kinds of different tasks. I forget how we're doing this. And it was, I mean, listen to these people, all happy. But she's second generation kid. This is an interesting thing. And she's like, what did she say in this interview? And then I heard it was on my mom's grade. And I'm like, wow! You freaking out. I said, what's your name? And so that she was a comic kid and she made these like really great. Because wrestling first he did the made all these questions. And then they made I remember watching this. And he talked about, he was like, this is far done, what did you do? And he saw what you saw. Then he's programming to see everything. All right. So Resick said, okay, we're going to throw everything we've done for the last 4 months and stuff. And then he found this one and she made it so good. The first time I looked at it, she was explaining it was all jobs. And they picked that because they were going to and basically you got to the point where you're like, I think I almost understand how big orientation. I don't, but I think I do. And she left. I kind of do now. She left and went away. She went to something. Sets of people. Stuff. Accessibility. So Python, so the fact that a whole Autodesk, because they did do it with students, I watched them go for like chart data and a little bit, and they gave away, I remember when they started out, they gave away year lessons. Literally. And so like the students that would walk to school, they probably got into school and they were, and then a year later they were doing my final freshman projects and breakdowns. And they were pissed! So like, so Autodesk at that point said that literally they gave 3 years. All you have to have, if you have if you're a student or a mentor, yeah, I mean, so, and I think it's literally just definitely, and you can't even spend time our license, and we don't have to. They've changed their but they still give away shit. Now, they kind of playing around with the using license mark, they have to start off license. But still, I think they can
that's the thing, like summer, but I kind of doubt.
Right, and then you also, so that's why it's like,
summer, they next 3 kids.
like Nate, and so I kind of, you know, that, so then I'll be more like that when you start more yeah, so. Yeah, well, I'll get it when I get something together, because I know I've asked, like, Nate was big into.
Can't wait to ride it.
And he typically I started watching all your because I miss other things I missed with Sheeran. I'm sure everybody got definitely nothing on it except, oh my God, Sheeran, you can talk really fast. So she like was using Twitter to make it. Like she was so like, but Nate spends all of his time making Twitter and then now he's on free. But so and that's got to be released in seasons.
That's crazy software. I used to do 3D animation. I tried out Blender for a little while. And I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
I used to do
right. So
I know they're not the same, but
I will figure it out. I think that's the. Anyway, thanks for your. But I'll.
no, I appreciate it. It's exciting.
I'd like to say if I can get it to work. As soon as we get that installation done. So you jumped off.
Oh my God, I'm trying to get my son to get nowhere to work on that. He's got plans.
How much you got? How much time you got left?
I think we're about 5 or 10 hours away from that. Well, it's been super interesting. It's actually been great for him and I.
Yeah, no, right, yeah, no. It's, I was even thinking about it. I remember when Sean's with her daughter, his daughter did that. Yeah. I still to this day, I know she's doing fine, you know, just like that. And then, literally they had like a conference, like an English conference. I could swear with her. No, not Sector, but like in schools, you know, like the ones who like had the best. Like, so basically, for her English class, she got to like, you know. So it's always cool, is you know, watch her have her time and make something.
Yeah.
I could swear with her. I usually watch the one. I get a lot of that in my life, so that show. Yeah, but I know it's. I think it was her. I think it was her that things.
I will. I'll be glad to see you.
See, you got the rest back.
I've done so many of them. We're here to the meeting. Which one of the kids is a robot? And then some like, oh, I'm going to play him. They were doing an underwater dance party when I left.
Well, it's good because that's a lot of time. A lot of people get a lot of time. Is it the high school?
Yeah.
Where do they swim? They
have a pool in
Well,
can't share it yet. No.
Don't talk. We need
more than that.
every once in a while.
How would you do this? How would you do this?
Well, it was like really big. Yeah, just replace one.
Yeah.
Like, get a whole bunch of masonite, whatever, you know, or just replace them constantly. Clamping, I guess, is one thing. If it's like masonite, it might be might not work with the bags on it, but can you get
Well, I think their thing is screw something out of don't use it.
well, you don't want to use the thing, you know, I mean, I don't want to, but
I think they're worrying about like me, not knowing what they're doing, like screwing in the you can have enough stuff in the way.
well, it's like a solid aluminum top, it's not like it's actually
Steel.
well, steel or whatever, you're not going to be screwing into it,
I
right?
thought for sure the thing was aluminum. I thought stuff back.
Sure, yeah, even better, you're not going to be screwing into it. I don't know.
A stinger is kind of fragile.
Sure, yeah, the stickers, like, definitely,
Yeah.
because that's like a composite, plastic, composite, and the base layer.
Yeah. Well, there's some interesting. I think it would be a good it would be a good application.
For your own, like if I'm gonna cut through things, I don't have to do is get down. That's my spot for today.
Yeah, you might have to spend some time for what you need or your space or whatever.
Is it, like, it's a pretty big table, how, like, roll, like, the big,
It's basically a rectangle. And it's all gated, so it's the zones are.
It's too big. Just here, you can just swap out.
what if
We should have the overshoot right much because these things are precise, not just like overshoot like.
Right. Yeah, that's actually why it's bolted to the well under his mouth. Charlie did throw an easy bed. There may be some variance in the tables height.
but I wouldn't think it would be built in.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would be either. I mean, he said they had to cut, they were cutting paper.
Yeah, see, like, paper, so, like.
It's basically, they mapped it to the
Can you just put a piece of wood down and grind to C equals 0?
We could, yeah. I mean, in theory.
But it sounds like that'd be nature machine. It's not even converted. If they're like talking about like just like it's not cutting the piece of paper, that's like thousands of dollars.
Does it have like a table like that? It's got a swell on it.
We could, in theory, just all let it see and see if they can program the whole table and maps and talk with them. I guess I'd be curious to measure how I expect it's going to be one router. Yeah, it's super legit. Oh, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
So I have to run a small relay number.
Okay, so
Basically, since the
Yeah, makes sense. Something we do there too.
Inside insulation.
Oh, it's with the fan. Take like a quarter-inch piece of 5-string tight ring maple or something, and you would route take a photograph, and you translate that to darker versus lighter. Route the back of it, basically surface the back of that panel, so that when you use the light, you can, like I did that on this tested rotary axis. We did another, my wife, another one recently, a friend whose child died, so we're gonna do cycling it, but it just looks weird on the outside if you do it like that, so I just suggest do flat panels of wood.
What is that's opposite side.
Depth map part on the inside.
Did you, where'd you look
So just look at your
felt flooring and all that shit?
So, I'd like to use that as a test piece for it.
I just want a
so anyway, you got your
Flooring, this is all community of most likely have one sheet of quarter plywood. It's clear 5mm plywood. So the boys and I made a band more outfit with one sheet of plywood. Yeah, when they were little, it was this little, tiny little boats. Yeah, they brought a tail through and they could throw it around. And it was all designed to get really easily made from one piece of plywood. But you had to sort of cut this end of the table, this long, this end, these angles, you have to lay them out camera. On that thing, you can just literally take it. I was zip, 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 here's all your bulk parts of wiring together. So that would be a good ass project. It was something you like ever push your button and make it regatta.
Well, if you want to get
This thing was fit, I could throw it around, but there's a bunch of release to me. I don't know when it was.
Well, or you can,
That'd be a great thing to workshop.
but then I don't really want to like that's not gonna make me shit in a way. So the point being is you have a place to stay.
Yeah, once you plywood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Let's
for
get somewhere. Change the lifestyle. Can you finish one?
So at some point, Chris and Joe, how like our the glass bottle.
Like
glass bottle there. The older one.
The one with the news.
Yeah, well, for furniture pieces like that, it ought to be. First of all, because for the size of stuff you're doing, I feel like it'd be easier.
It's not, people will go over. I don't think the same is snowing while together.
I want to say they were like 20, 30 bucks for a sheet or something.
Sometime in your life to go by.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is certainly large.
Well, it's good to see the
dust
parallel
collector
process.
set up. Right.
See the parallel of the building and the shop. So it's not all buildings. That's interesting. It's fun. It's like a dog on a bike yesterday. Complaints is fun to watch that whole family dynamic. Because then he was like, see how it is. It's really good. So, but it was funny because Mark was asking him about bike. And I was up there doing something for him. And then he came and told me, this is Chris. Someone asked him a lot of, I can understand. Electrician asking me a lot of electrical questions, and he thought it was me. It's like, oh no, I'd ask Mike about music, or weed, but I wouldn't ask him about. So yeah, it is interesting to see that barrel, because that becomes theirs. So the only thing I mean, if you have, well, it's the globalization. It's open, and it's everything, it's right.
Yeah, but
it's not a glide slope yet. If it had to, right? It's the kind of thing. If the McDonald's had to open on Thursday, as they're starting on the sidewalk, it's remobilizing people. All we need is the router. No, that thing with Davey, there was an interesting thing. Because there was, it's that people coming in that otherwise weren't in, like people just. Oh, no.
I'm at the same point a month pretty much got it right now.
Is it possible to use
You need a horse, which you need here in Pittsburgh. You should buy that horse.
A lot of new framing, a lot of new electrical. I wish the house I was working on was lather and plaster, not just like crazy. Like not quite, like this house looks like it's put together by good for free, It's been interesting taking this thing apart. There's a whole wall. It's a low bearing wall running down the center of the thing. The studs on the bottom of the wall, the studs are.
Okay, that's a lot.
The top of the wall, they're a full 2x4. They come reading heavy. So they're like. They're wedges. They're like one like that, and they like plumb. They made it. They like added stuff on the outside of. It was sheeted with drywall on this like 2 big studs.
Yeah.
limbs or whatever, and put them to plumb it up or square it out. Put it on the outside of this toothpick stud, and then put drywall on the outside of that. It's like, oh yeah, this is fucking brilliant. And that's like far from the whole. It's been interesting, like, tearing stuff apart.
Some of the Greeks that give you a sense of scale as you were looking up.
Right.
Maybe you're working on
Yeah, it's probably all, you know, like golden triangles.
Look for the ratios in there.
Yeah, no, it's nuts. Like the drywall's not like sheets of drywall, it's like squares of drywall. Like this toothpick wall, like the biggest piece of drywall I pulled off that wall was probably this big. It was probably, you know, 4 by 2. And it's just like, and then it had masonite over that, which was the same thing. And then a layer of drywall, and then more masonite on top. Just like there's no sense to any of this shit.
How many more spots did you find that bag of money?
I don't think we had any money. Obviously, you know. It's not an old house. Like it's not an old house. Had a flat roof originally, and now it's being, so that situation I gotta like investigate. I think that was at least done intelligently. It was done like later, and they probably like paid something for it or whatever. You know, it looks pretty legitimate so far. But if it was done anything like the rest of it was, probably redo that shit too. No headers or any doors or windows or anything like that. It's pretty bad.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, we got a really good deal.
Yeah, I think I got a good deal. I mean, I think it'll. I'm not bummed about it. I figured that's what I was getting. It was like totally disgusting and nasty. I wasn't quite planning on like some of the weird structural construction things. But I was gonna gut it anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. It's just kind of and in the house like stayed together for at least probably 60 years so far, 70 years maybe. In this state, there's not much rot or anything like that. There's nothing. There's one spot where I found any rot. That's good.
So when you need a project, go live your 8th grade.
Just tell me where to put it. We're on the critical path. What's the next thing on the kids' agenda?
Nothing too much. Once I think I know.
Remind me, James, you
Well, shit.